Imagine a world in which nobody cared about anybody else. A world in which each of us was out exclusively for our own personal gain in a war of all against all. Imagine a world in which honesty did not matter. A world in which nobody could ever be sure if anybody else was ever telling the truth. In other words, imagine a world in which ethical behavior and moral values did not exist. In such a world, nothing would make sense. Everything would be chaotic. We could never trust each other, and we'd never be able to work with each other for any shared purpose. We'd be dominated by liars, tyrants, and dictators, and we'd search in vain for legitimate leaders. The real world may never get quite that bad, but over the last couple of decades, many have proposed that we're facing an ethical crisis of confidence in the major institutions of our society, and especially in our leaders. In this program, we'll hear from 3 experienced leaders and thinkers who have brought wisdom and insight to these matters. Eboo Patel is the founder and director of the Interfaith Youth Corps, an international organization that brings young people of all religions together in service activities. He's written several books, delivered addresses to audiences worldwide, and is a regular contributor to major newspapers and websites. During his 34 years in the U.S. Army, Wesley Clark rose to the rank of 4-star general and was named Director for Strategic Plans and Policy of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. As Supreme Allied Commander and Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. European Command, Clark commanded Operation Allied Force, NATO's first major combat action, which saved 1.5 million Albanians from ethnic cleansing in Kosovo. He was a candidate for the Democratic Party's nomination for president in 2004. In that same year, he delivered the convocation address at Ripon College and spoke with a group of students and faculty in the college's ethical leadership program.
It's a time where there's a lot of discussion in America about ethical leadership. You can hardly open the newspaper or turn on the television without hearing it. It runs the gamut in political life, in military life, in public life, in private life. It's everything from discussions of an impeachment of a chief executive to a corporation going out of business because of shady accounting practices. It's criticism and condemnation of religious institutions, but equally criticism of secular institutions. It's holding up a high standard and continually finding examples of people, systems, and institutions which don't quite measure up.
Dr. Brian Smith is endowed professor of religion at Ripon College. He's written about the intersection of religion and politics and is a former Catholic priest.
In some ways, we really have a crisis of ethical leadership today in our society in almost every institution. You think of how people are turned off by politics and the U.S. Congress because of the lack of ability of these leaders that we elect to inspire us, to lead us, to get together, to forge policies for the common good. You think of the number of business people over the last 10 years that have gone to jail, not because they're poor and they have to cheat in order to support their families. They're filthy rich and they want more and more and more, and they steal. We think of our religious leaders. I am a Roman Catholic, and I know in the last 10 years many people in my church have really become discouraged by the lack of honest leadership on the part of some of our leaders, our bishops, who haven't forthrightly faced up to the poor performance of priests and the pedophilia that's gone on in the Catholic Church by priests, hiding it, moving the priests around, not courageously calling it it's wrong, and removing those men from the priesthood. We can go on and on. We need inspiration to do the best that we can to become human beings. And therefore, when leaders fail to have a sense of honor, a sense of ethics, a sense of morality, it really does hurt us all. Democracy and education and technology do not guarantee ethical leadership in our society. What then is ethical leadership? I think it's very important to understand that ethics and morality are not necessarily the same things. Ethics, traditionally by philosophers, has been defined as a practical science to apply values to problem areas in life to make good decisions. Morality, however, has to do with character. It has to do with the deeper values that people hold. People cannot be ethical, whether they be followers or leaders, unless they have a sense of values deep embedded in their character, which we learn at a very young age.